Hi, Betsy here with Elevate Wealth Advisory. Earlier this month, we shared that our June $1,000 donation is going to Fact Relief, which stands for Families and Communities Together. Our founder, Chuck Vickery, selected this charity, and today we're so happy to have with us Kelly Foster, Executive Director at Fact Relief, and Jen Parker, our Associate Director at Fact Relief. Hi, everybody.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Well, could you all share with me a little bit about the mission of Fact Relief, how it was started?
Mhm. So our mission is really to help any young families or families really out there that are going through a catastrophic illness or injury. We started our mission almost actually 10 years ago, coming up very soon, when a good friend of some of our board members was diagnosed with ALS. He had three young boys at home, and the disease affected his voice. That was where it first sort of started for him. It can start on all different parts of the body, but for him, it was in his voice, which also affected his ability to speak for a living, which he was in sales, and slowly started to affect his swallowing. And so what our board, when they sat down and really started looking at the research and really started looking at, you know, what his life trajectory was going to look like in a very short period of time and the expense that that was going to have on his family. The resources that were out there were just very, very limited. Before the Ice Bucket Challenge, there really wasn't really a whole lot out there for ALS. And so we've seen, tremendous growth in the industry, but still there are just not a lot of resources for families dealing with ALS. They came together, they joked that they came together in a garage and sort of came up with an idea. Shortly thereafter, they hired me and brought me on, not that I had a wealth of knowledge about nonprofits, but had a passion for what we were going to do. And we sort of put it together and started Fact Relief. And we looked at what are the big expenses that families are having to deal with. And yes, research is important, and funding these clinics are important, but what was really affecting our families were the day-to-day living expenses. And how could we keep him at home with his children, in the very short time period that he had left? So we began looking at how we can collectively fundraise as a families, as communities, as people that wanted to help. And we started looking at, which also grew into other diseases. When we started looking at the things that we wanted to cover, things like home health care, co-pays on uninsured medical costs, wheelchair, covering the cost of a wheelchair or a Hoyer lift or a house renovation. Those are all things that are very little of that are covered by insurance. And most of all, it cripples families and really brings them into, in some cases, bankruptcy. Our first patient, unfortunately, was a single father. So he did not have, kind of a support network. But in those situations and families, and Jen, I'm going to allow Jen to talk a little bit about this, but, most cases, if the breadwinner or, if you're a double income family, one of you is sick and one of you has to stay home to take care of, or you have to hire outside help. And, if you know anything about the home health care industry now, it is in crisis mode. It's very expensive, and just our families aren't getting respite care at all. So we started, as we grew and started looking at past ALS, we started looking at, families going through cancer treatments, families going through heart attack and stroke. We actually was in that first year, a young family who's, the father had a stroke at the age of 42, and they had twin boys who were, only 12 years old. So that we just started seeing all of the similarities and of what all those families needed. And so we grew into 4 different funds. Our largest fund is the neurological fund that funds all of our ALS patients. We also have other brain diseases in that fund, such as Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's, as well as blanking on some of the, on all the other diseases. And then we have oncological, which is cancer, covers all of our patients who are diagnosed with some type of cancer. We have cardiovascular, which is all of our patients who have suffered, gone through either a heart attack or a stroke. And then we have accident injury. Unfortunately, right now, all of our accident injury patients are under the age of 18. And so those are children who have, we've had one child who sadly got struck from a bullet when there was a very big fight that broke out in a football game. He was very, very young, and it affected his spinal cord. We had another child who was in a ski accident that affected him long term, his ability to really walk and talk and function. And then we have another individual who was in, just a severe accident that will affect the rest of his life. So again, all of these patients sort of have those same needs in terms of the equipment, the medical equipment, the home healthcare needs, the uninsured medical costs. And so those are all the things that we're focused on covering. That was a
Oh,
really
wow. Thank you. That is a lot that you're doing and just so needed. I mean, anyone who's even going in for surgery ends up with more costs. So I can't even imagine how devastating something like some of the things you mentioned could be to a family financially. Well, what can $1,000 do to help you all?
Well, $1,000 is really it's a lot and it's a little, it's a lot because it can really, really impact these families. So they are facing, and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. But $1,000 just for someone who really has to take care of a patient round the clock, $250 covers a full day of home healthcare services. So that allows that person to leave the home, know that their loved one is taken care of. They can get errands done. Maybe they can even sleep through the night for the first time. So there's a lot of things that $250 can do for that person. If we take 500 of those dollars, we can actually help cover sometimes a portion of a mortgage payment or utilities, so that they can use those dollars that maybe will cover something else that's really needed for the family. We also cover therapy. And so those can cover a couple of hours of therapy. We have one family who they have 4 young girls, and the father is unfortunately losing his battle right now with cancer. And we have been instrumental in helping prepare their daughters, who are, like I said, all under the age of 14, and to really understand what the next few months are going to look like. If we just look at $50, $50 can cover a copay on medicine, on on monthly medications that aren't covered, or that they have a copay on. And so if you look at even something as small as $50, it really goes a long way when they're having to pay multiple medications a month.
That's amazing. Well, thank you. Well, Jen, do you want to talk a little bit about how you came to be part of the organization?
I would love to. I love this story. So, my husband Brian was diagnosed with ALS in 2011. We lived in California at the time. We ended up moving back home so we would have a support system here. For many years, we just kind of struggled along. I had to quit my job to care for my husband. He was completely paralyzed at that point, had a trait, could not be left alone for honestly a single minute. And we were desperate. I was tired. We were running out of money. And there's just really, like Kelly said, there's not a lot of resources out there for families who have that kind of care need. And I came across FACT. I found them on their website. And had a conversation with Kelly, and I was like, wow, this lady really understands. I mean, like, she was one of the only people who had the compassion and the knowledge for what I needed. And she helped us with a small grant and then helped us fundraise. It was the best fundraiser that we've ever had. And I really can't sing Kelly's praises enough. And just the way the mission is set up of the organization to really comprehend what is needed. And then when Brian passed away, I called Kelly and I was like, I love what you're doing. Do you need any help? And it just so worked out that she did. It was perfect timing. And I've been here for 3 years and I love what we're doing. So
Oh, wow.
that's my
Well, I'm so sorry
story.
what you all went through. I know that was awful, and I'm just so sorry, but I'm glad you did have some assistance along the way. And well, it just sounds like you jumped on board because you just were so impressed with what they were doing. So if others are hearing this story and they want to help, what's the best way for them to get involved?
I
Well,
think just, oh, go ahead, please.
go ahead, Jen.
I just think having a conversation with us, and when we talk to a family and really understand their needs, then we understand who they have in their lives that can support them. We help give them ideas. We just try to pull their resources together and their networks together. And when we figure out the best ways, is it a barbecue fundraiser for them? Is it an online fundraiser for them? Can they volunteer with us for fundraisers and things like that? There are all kinds of different ways, and we want to try to adapt to the family and try to figure out what serves their needs the best.
Yeah, and I would add, obviously donations are always the best thing because it allows us to serve the population in the best way possible. But we do have a very large black tie gala every February. It is held in Atlanta at the Buckhead Theater. We've already set the date for next year. Jen, do you have the date? Is it the
22nd, February 22nd.
February 22nd? And we always need volunteers for that. Volunteers to check in people, volunteers to kind of help work the silent auction and the live auction. And that money is, it's a fabulous, really unique event. It pulls together top donors for a beautiful dinner of about a very intimate situation where it's about 125 people. And then at 9 o'clock, the doors open and we gather about 900 young people for a wonderful philanthropy event. And they all come for the single purpose of raising money for us, for ALS, for research. And that is, sort of turns into a fun after party with a band and a DJ from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. But there's definitely an opportunity for, if you want a nice, elegant dinner, black tie, earlier in the evening for a really intimate event where we can showcase sort of our families for the year.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, where's the best place for everyone to go? Where's the website? And you can donate online as well.
Yes, so there's factrelief.org and it's www.factrelief.org. So it's factrelief.org. There's a donate button on the top. There's also a place where you can go to events and it showcases all of our events throughout the year.
Fantastic. And just so we know, are you serving Georgia? Are you serving outside of Georgia? What is your area of service?
So we are mainly in the state of Georgia. However, we are registered in some of the surrounding states, as well as we do have some referrals that come in from other states and we'll register our nonprofit in those states as they come about. But mostly our population is Georgia with the surrounding states, Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. And thanks for all that you do to help people through some of the hardest times of their life. I know that everyone is very, very grateful that you all are doing this. So thank you. And thanks for spending some time with us today.
Well, thank you so much for just having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Absolutely. Your mission is really close to our founder, Chuck's heart. And so he let us know about it. And we just think it's amazing. And if anyone out there wants more information on what we're doing, you go to elevate-wealth.com. We have a banner at the top. And if you click it, it tells you all the different organizations we've supported this year. And so throughout the month of June, you'll be hearing a lot about Fact Relief. Thanks so much for everything.
Thank you.